The distress signal, the peaceful mining colony of Kepler 442b, had known nothing but quiet for 3 generations. The blue-skinned Taurians had built their small settlement in the shadow of crystal mountains, their gentle nature reflected in their simple dome-shaped homes and gardens that glowed with bioluminescent plants. Commander Rax stood on the observation deck of their communications tower, his forearms working methodically to calibrate the long-range transmitter. The Taurians had always been traders, not warriors. Their slim builds and delicate features spoke of a species that had evolved in harmony with their world, not in conflict. The attack came without warning. Dark ships emerged from the void like hungry shadows, their hulls bristling with weapon arrays that gleamed with malicious intent. The Kroger Empire had found them. These reptilian raiders were everything the Taurians were not: massive, armored, and driven by an endless hunger for conquest and slaves. All stations, prepare for evacuation. Rax transmitted across the colony's network, his voice calm, despite the terror clawing at his hearts. The first energy blasts struck the outer settlements, turning homes into burning wreckage in seconds. The Kroger landing craft descended like metal locusts. Warriors twice the height of any Taurian stormed out, their scaled hides proof against the miners' simple tools. Families ran through the crystal valleys, carrying children and elders. But there was nowhere to hide from the systematic destruction dot in the communication center. Rax made a desperate choice. The Taurians had heard stories of other species in the galaxy, some friendly, some hostile, and some unknown. But there were rumors of a young race called humans who had recently joined the galactic community. Stories said they were fierce defenders of the innocent, though no one had seen proof. This is Colony Kepler 442b to any vessels in range. Rax broadcast on all frequencies as explosions shook the building around him. We are under attack by Kroger forces. Our defenses have failed. We have 3,000 civilians, including 800 children. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. The message repeated automatically as Rax gathered the last evacuation group. Outside, the Kroger were herding captured Taurians into transport ships. Their cruel laughter echoed across the burning settlement. Light years away, the human patrol ship Defiance picked up the signal. Captain Blake sat in his command chair, studying the transmission with growing anger. The crew around him, tough veterans from Earth's recent colonial wars, listened to the desperate plea with hardening faces. Sir, Lieutenant Kim reported from the communication station. We're getting reports of Kroger raids across this entire sector. It looks like a major slave-taking operation. Blake stood slowly, his jaw tight. The humans had been in space for only 50 years, but they had learned quickly that the galaxy was not a safe place. They had also learned that they had certain advantages other species lacked. Navigation. Plot a course for Kepler 442b. Maximum burn, he ordered. Communications. Send a priority message to Fleet Command. Tell them we need every available ship at these coordinates. Sir, that will take us deep into Kroger territory, the helmsman warned. Blake's smile was cold as winter steel. Then I guess we'll have to introduce ourselves properly. All hands, battle stations. We're going to show these raiders what happens when they pick on innocent people. Across human space, the call went out. Within hours, ships were changing course toward the embattled Taurian colony. Destroyers, cruisers, and the massive human dreadnoughts began their journey through hyperspace, their crews preparing for war. The humans had been looking for their place in the galaxy. They had found it. The human response Admiral Stone stood in the war room of Earth's orbital defense station, watching holographic displays update with ship positions across 3 star systems. The Kroger had made a critical error. They had asked for human attention. Status report, she commanded, her weathered hands clasped behind her back. Stone had fought in the Centauri Independence War and the Martian Uprising. She understood violence in ways that peaceful species never could. 67 ships have responded to the distress call, reported Colonel Hayes, his augmented reality display showing fleet positions in real time. Captain Blake's group will arrive first, but they're outnumbered 5-1. Stone nodded grimly. The humans had learned early that space combat was about more than numbers. It was about will, training, and the kind of fury that came from seeing innocents suffer. What do we know about Kroger tactics? She asked. Major Torres, the intelligence officer, pulled up combat data. They rely on overwhelming force and intimidation. Their ships are heavily armored, but slow. They're not used to opponents who fight back effectively. The Admiral studied the tactical information. The Kroger had conquered 17 species in the past century, but all of those had been peaceful civilizations with limited military capability. They had never faced humans. Send word to all responding ships, Stone decided. This is a rescue operation, not a conquest. We save the Taurians, eliminate the immediate threat, and send a message that slave raids in this sector are finished. Meanwhile, Captain Blake's small task force dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. The sight that greeted them made every human on the bridge clench their fists in rage. Kroger ships surrounded the planet like vultures around carrion. The beautiful blue world was scarred with fires visible from orbit. Transport ships heavy with captives were already departing for the slave markets of the Kroger Empire. Tactical assessment, Blake ordered, his voice deadly calm. 43 enemy vessels, reported the weapons officer. Mix of raiders, transports, and 3 heavy cruisers. They've got 1,000 times our firepower on paper. Blake smiled the wolf smile. Then it's a fair fight. All ships, attack formation Alpha. Target the transports. First, we're getting those people back. The human ships accelerated toward the enemy fleet with a recklessness that would have horrified more cautious species. But Blake had calculated correctly. The Kroger were not prepared for opponents who valued others' lives more than their own. Safety. The first human missiles struck before the Kroger could react. Unlike the Raiders' energy weapons, human ordnance was designed to penetrate armor and cause maximum internal damage. The lead transport ship, packed with Taurian prisoners, found its engines dead and its weapons offline as boarding pods latched onto its hull. This is Captain Blake of the human ship Defiance, he broadcast on all frequencies. Release your prisoners immediately, or we will take them by force. The Kroger commander's response was predictable concentrated fire from every available weapon. But the humans had already scattered, their ships weaving through the enemy formation like angry hornets, too fast and too determined to pin down. On the planet's surface, the surviving Taurians watched in amazement as human drop pods began landing near their hiding places. The soldiers who emerged were unlike anything they had ever seen bipedal like themselves, but broader, stronger, and carrying weapons that spoke of a warrior culture. Sergeant Murphy led his squad through the burning settlement, checking each building for survivors and hostiles. When they found a group of Kroger soldiers threatening a family of Taurians, the encounter was brief and decisive. The humans, whispered one of the rescued Taurians, staring at Murphy's scarred face and determined eyes. They came. They actually came. Murphy knelt beside the injured father, applying medical nanobots to his wounds. We got your message, he said simply. Nobody gets left behind, not on our watch. Above them, the space battle raged on. More human ships were arriving every hour, and the Kroger were beginning to realize they had made a terrible mistake. These humans fought with a combination of tactical brilliance and absolute determination that their empire had never encountered. The rescue of Kepler 442b had begun, but it would become something much larger. The first demonstration of humanity's place in the galactic order. the turning tide Commander Voss of the Kroger Imperial Navy had conquered 12 worlds and enslaved their populations without losing a single ship. His reptilian features showed no emotion as he watched human vessels tear through his formation with impossible precision. How are they moving so fast? His tactical officer hissed, watching another transport ship fall to human boarding actions. The humans were not just fighting, they were systematically dismantling his entire operation. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Blake coordinated the rescue with cold efficiency. Team Alpha, secure Transport 7. Team Beta, cover there. Extraction. All fighters, keep those cruisers busy. The human fighter pilots needed no encouragement. They dove through Kroger defensive fire with a fearlessness that bordered on insanity, their ships dancing between energy blasts that would have vaporized them instantly. Lieutenant Park's fighter took a hit that fried half his systems, but he kept flying. "This is Lightning 6, he reported, his voice steady despite the plasma burns on his arms. "My birds hurt, but still fighting, marking targets for the big guns." The human capital ships used Park's targeting data to devastating effect. Their weapons were not the most powerful in the galaxy, but they were accurate and relentless. Each shot was calculated to disable rather than destroy, preserving the prisoners aboard the transport vessels. On the planet's surface, the rescue operation was revealing the true horror of the Kroger methods. Human medics worked frantically to save Taurian civilians who had been brutalized during the initial attack. The aliens' blue skin was pale with trauma, their large eyes reflecting terror that would take years to heal. Dr. Mills knelt beside a young Taurian who couldn't have been more than 10 years old in human terms. The child's arm was broken, and she flinched away from any touch. "It's okay," Mills whispered, her voice gentle despite the sounds of battle echoing outside. "You're safe now. The bad ones can't hurt you anymore." The child looked up with eyes like dark pools. "You came from the stars," she said in broken galactic standard. "Like the mean ones, but different." Mills smiled, carefully splinting this small arm. "We came because you asked for help. That's what friends do." Above them, Admiral Stone's main fleet finally arrived in a blaze of hyperspace exits that lit up the system's edge like newborn stars. 40 human warships in full battle formation, a sight that made even the arrogant Kroger pause. "This is Admiral Stone of the Terran Federation Navy." Her voice boomed across all frequencies. "Kroger forces, you have attacked civilians under the protection of galactic law. Release all prisoners immediately and withdraw from this system, or face the consequences." Commander Voss snarled at the audacity. His empire had never yielded to threats from inferior species. "Human Admiral," he replied, "you are outnumbered and outgunned. Withdraw now, or share the fate of these blue-skinned weaklings." Stone's response was to launch every fighter and missile she had. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The humans fought with a coordination that seemed almost telepathic, their ships moving in perfect harmony while their weapons found every gap in Kroger defenses. But it was not just their tactics that won the day. It was their motivation. Every human in that system was fighting for people they had never met, of a species they barely knew, simply because those people had asked for help. Marine Captain Rodriguez led the assault on the Kroger command ship, his team cutting through corridors filled with warriors twice their size. "Remember," he told his soldiers as they breached another bulkhead, "we're not here to conquer. We're here to rescue." The difference showed in every action. Where Kroger fought with cruel efficiency, humans fought with desperate determination. Where the raiders showed no mercy, the humans went to extraordinary lengths to minimize casualties, even among the enemy. When Commander Voss finally found himself facing Rodriguez in his own command center. The human offered terms that stunned him. "Surrender now," Rodriguez said, his rifle trained on the Kroger's chest, "and your surviving crews can return home. Keep fighting, and we'll make sure your empire knows exactly what happened here." Voss looked at the tactical display showing his shattered fleet. Of his 43 ships, only 7 were still capable of fighting. The humans had accomplished the impossible. They had defeated a superior force while simultaneously conducting a massive rescue operation. "You fight like demons," he growled, slowly raising his clawed hands. Rodriguez smiled grimly. "No, we fight like humans." Aftermath and revelations. The rescue was complete, but the real work was just beginning. Human medical ships worked around the clock to treat 3,000 traumatized Taurians, while engineers rebuilt the damaged colony infrastructure with typical human efficiency. Admiral Stone walked through the temporary field hospital, observing her people work alongside the grateful blue-skinned civilians. The Taurians moved differently now they had seen both the worst and best the galaxy had to offer in a single day. "Admiral," Dr. Mills approached with a tablet full of medical reports. "A psychological trauma is extensive, but they're responding well to treatment. The children especially seem to bounce back quickly when they feel safe." Stone nodded, watching a young Taurian girl show a human engineer how to make their bioluminescent plants glow brighter. The child who had been cowering in terror just days ago was now laughing at the engineer's clumsy attempts to activate the alien technology. "It's remarkable," Mills continued. "They're naturally peaceful, but that doesn't make them weak. They just needed someone to stand between them and the predators." The political implications were already rippling across the galaxy. In the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime, representatives from dozens of species watched recordings of the battle with growing amazement and concern. Ambassador Keth of the Confederation spoke first, his insectoid features clicking with agitation. The humans intervened in a conflict that did not concern them. This sets a dangerous precedent for galactic stability. The holographic display showed human ships diving through Kroger formations with reckless courage, their crews fighting for aliens they had never met. Other representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Dangerous for whom?" asked Ambassador Yiren of the Altarian Republic. Her species had been fighting off Kroger raids for decades with limited success. The humans accomplished in 3 days what our combined fleets couldn't do in 3 years. The debate raged for hours, but the real conversation was happening in private channels. Species across the galaxy were quietly reaching out to human diplomatic missions, asking about defensive alliances and mutual aid treaties. Back at Kepler 442b, Captain Blake found himself in an unexpected role diplomat. The Taurian Council of Elders had requested a formal meeting, and Blake was the senior human officer present. "Captain Blake," Elder Rax said, his forearms gesturing in the Taurian expression of deep gratitude. "Our people have no words for what you have done. We were prepared to die or worse. Instead, you gave us back our lives and our hope." Blake felt uncomfortable with the praise. In his mind, he had simply done what any decent person would do. "We just answered your call for help, Elder Rax. That's what neighbors do." "Neighbors," Rax repeated the word slowly. "Yes, perhaps that is what we are now. The galaxy is vast and dangerous, but knowing there are neighbors like you makes it seem less frightening." The formal ceremony was simple but moving. The Taurians presented the humans with a crystal sculpture that captured starlight and held it in shifting patterns of blue and silver. "This represents our eternal gratitude," Rax explained. "As long as these crystals shine, the Taurian people will remember what you have done for us." Blake accepted the gift on behalf of humanity, but his mind was already on larger concerns. Intelligence reports showed Kroger fleets massing near human space. The rescue at Kepler 442b had saved lives, but it had also declared humanity's intentions to the galaxy. "Sir," Lieutenant Kim approached with a priority message from Earth. "Fleet Command wants to know our long-term strategy for dealing with the Kroger Empire. They're asking if this was a one-time rescue or the beginning of something bigger." Blake looked out at the rebuilt Taurian settlement, where human engineers worked alongside blue-skinned aliens to create something stronger than what had been destroyed. Children of both species played together in the gardens, their laughter carrying across the crystal valleys. "Tell them," Blake said slowly, "that we just found our purpose in the galaxy. We're not conquerors, or traders, or explorers. We're the ones who answer when someone calls for help." The message went out across human space, and the response was immediate and overwhelming. Recruitment centers were flooded with volunteers. Shipyards worked triple shifts to build more vessels. Humanity was mobilizing not for conquest, but for protection. The Kroger had expected to find easy prey in the outer systems. Instead, they had awakened something they didn't understand, a species that would cross the galaxy to fight for strangers. Simply because it was the right thing to do, the age of human guardianship had begun. The new Galactic Order 6 months after the Battle of Kepler 442b, the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The human concept of humanitarian intervention was spreading like wildfire among the peaceful species, while predatory empires found their ancient strategies suddenly obsolete. Admiral Stone stood before the Galactic Council for the first time, representing not just humanity, but a new philosophy of interstellar relations. The chamber was packed with representatives from 93 species, many of whom had never spoken to each other before the human arrival. "Honored delegates," Stone began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. 6 months ago, the Kroger Empire believed they could raid and pillage with impunity. Today, their slave ships sit empty in their home ports, because every species in this galaxy knows that help will come when they call for it. The statistics were undeniable. Kroger raids had dropped by 90%. Piracy in the outer systems was at an all-time low. But more importantly, species that had cowered in isolation for centuries were now building defensive alliances and trade agreements. Ambassador Keth's insectoid features showed his continued displeasure. The humans had disrupted thousands of years of galactic balance. Their interference saved my people from extinction, interrupted Elder Rax, who now served as the Taurian representative to the Council. The balance you speak of was built on the suffering of the weak. The humans have shown us a better way. The debate that followed revealed the fundamental divide in galactic politics. The established powers wanted to maintain the status quo that had served them well, while younger and weaker species saw humanity as their salvation. Meanwhile, in human space, the transformation was equally dramatic. The Terran Federation had reorganized its entire military around rapid response and humanitarian intervention. New ship classes were being designed specifically for rescue operations and civilian protection. Captain Blake, now promoted to Commodore, commanded the first response flight, a combined arms formation capable of projecting force anywhere in the galaxy within 72 hours. His flagship, the Guardian, was a new class of vessel that carried both heavy weapons and extensive medical facilities. "Sir," his new communications officer reported, "we're receiving distress calls from 3 different systems. The hegemony is raiding the Pelican cluster. Pirates are attacking cargo convoys near Vega, and there are reports of a plague outbreak on New Kepler that requires immediate medical assistance." Blake studied the tactical display without hesitation. "Split the fleet. Task Force Alpha takes the hegemony. Task Force Beta handles the pirates, and I'll lead the medical mission to New Kepler. Standard protocol: save lives first, ask questions later." This was the new human way. While other species debated jurisdiction and protocols, humans simply went where they were needed most. The psychological impact was profound. For the first time in galactic history, weak species could call for help and know that someone would answer. The ancient equation of predator and prey was being rewritten by beings who refused to accept that suffering was inevitable. On New Kepler, a Taurian colony ship had been struck by a mutated virus that their medicine couldn't treat. Blake's medical teams worked for 60 straight hours to synthesize a cure, sharing their research freely with Taurian doctors so they could handle future outbreaks independently. "Why do you do this?" asked Dr. Mira, the chief Taurian physician, as she watched human medics work without rest to save her people. "You gain nothing from helping us." Chief Medical Officer Chun looked up from her research console, her eyes red with exhaustion, but bright with purpose. "We gain everything that matters. We gain a galaxy where children don't have to be afraid of monsters in the dark." The ripple effects continued to spread. The pelican species, rescued from hegemony raiders, offered their expertise in stellar navigation to human exploration missions. The vegan traders, freed from pirate attacks, provided advanced manufacturing technology that revolutionized human shipbuilding. But perhaps the most significant change was cultural. Young aliens across the galaxy began learning human languages and studying human history, trying to understand what made these strange bipeds willing to die for complete strangers. The answer, as it turned out, was simple. Humans had learned long ago that civilization wasn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It was about being willing to stand up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves. A year after that first distress call from Kepler 442b, the galaxy was a fundamentally different place. The age of empires built on conquest and slavery was ending, replaced by something unprecedented as civilization based on mutual protection and shared responsibility. The humans had found their place among the stars, not as conquerors or merchants, but as guardians, and the galaxy would never be the same. The end asterisk.